At best, only a fifth of Disney films are based on fairy tales, and Cinderella was only numero deux. No doubt a desire to remind audiences of Disney's most successful film to that point. So it's distressing how this film is very consciously modeled on Snow White, conceptually and in some specifics. Genre comfort is a thing, folks, and Disney excels at it, but none of their fairy tale films are more generic in their narrative execution than this. It has plenty of pleasures elsewhere, but still. One of those pleasures is the villain. Tremaine may be the most mean-spirited Disney villain. The precision of her small facial gestures in her cruelty is so razor-sharp in its animation as to be shudder-inducing. There's plenty of smashing examples of the film's spectacular design, but the Tremaine Chateau is a glorious highlight. The background suggests that it's both realistic and exaggerated on the notion of what a landowner's home ought to look like, not what it realistically would. Many Disney films often mix relatively serious drama with fantasy cartoon hijinks, but the albums in this one, they shatter the suspension of disbelief. They talk to humans and wear clothes.
A dream is a wish.
You know the way lesser songs get you itchy to skip through them, folks? Except in one gen, this film's songs fit that label. This one is an archetypal example of overdone saccharine. The way Jack was listening to the song, he wouldn't have moved, yet he's transported from the bed's headboard to its foot. Usually the fuss people kick up over Disney's gender politics isn't something I care about, but here we can talk. Cinderella has little personality beyond wanting to be in love with a prince and wear a pretty dress. But her actual animation, that's marvellous. She's famously rotoscoped, which here means tracing live action footage and then slightly exaggerating it. The fluidity with which she moves, it's worth writing home for. However, much like Snow White was a visual product of her time, Cinderella's design looks too much like an actress of the late 40s. That bedsheet had patches earlier. Where did they go? I don't think any Disney film has a more pronounced tone of rigid asexuality than this, a feature normally worth liking, but let's be frank, it's obvious that she has nothing to show behind that screen. Amazing how far the film goes to remind us adults of that fact. Cinderella ties the ribbon around all her hair, yet in the next shot, it's only tied around half.
New mouse in the house, brand new, never saw it before.
The mice are among the worst Disney comic relief characters. All the hate directed at the Ewoks is misplaced. Here's your target. They're so squarely pitched at little children, they nearly make the film useless for the rest of us. Given the females, as I mentioned, have nothing to show, this mouse flashing his chest to indicate the fan mouse's male has no meaning. Cinderella clothes and domesticates the mice. I'm convinced all those years of patiently waiting for her dreams to come true pushed her off the deep end. The shadow cast by the door moves in the opposite direction to the direction the door opens. What I love about Lucifer is how every movement he makes, no matter how cartoony, is that of a cat, smugly pleased with itself and aware that it is the master of its domain. It's the baseline for making him an outstanding comic villain, Figaro's evil twin if ever I saw him.
So if you don't want to lose a nice warm bed, you'd better get rid of those dreams.
While I wouldn't call the film unsophisticated, it lacks thematic depth.
Uh-oh, Lucifer, how are we gonna get out?
They could have called Cinderella from the ledge earlier and asked her to catch them. I'd join in with them if, Jock actually had a chance of being caught. Given how true to cats Lucifer is, it's a silly stretch that he wouldn't sense a mouse that close. Cat owners would get it. Congratulations, Cinderella, you found a mouse even more idiotic than usual. So idiotic he fights for food with others and ignores the big pile. Jock shouldn't have his hat on, given he was holding it to bait Lucifer. As long as the mice don't speak, and they frequently don't in these Tom and Jerry sequences, they are quite enjoyable. I'm pretty sure Jock pulled that whisker straight out of Lucifer to buy Gus time moments prior.
All right, I'm coming.
Cinderella, they can't hear you. The teacup Gus is under was on the right tray, which is the first tray delivered, yet the stepsister that freaks out had her tray delivered second, so it should have been the other one who freaked out. What happened to the scratch marks Lucifer made on the floor here? Cinderella having no toes could be an aesthetic choice, but then we see the stepsisters have toes, and large ones at that. I don't even have words, folks. Cinderella's shadow goes from being cast behind her to in front of her.
Now, let me see.
Clean it.
Tremaine's vocal performance is wonderfully wicked, full of sharpness that makes her one of cinema's meanest villains, cruel just for the delight in seeing Cinderella suffer, a villain we truly love to hate because she's so real. It's little wonder the Royal Castle has become a shorthand for classic Disney. Its gorgeous storybook look is something else, folks. Given the mice are horrible, only the King and Grand Duke provide comedy to the main drama, and they do so well. Not standouts, but they are fun, especially in the King's physical comedy.
I should arrange the ball for...
Tonight!
Oh, but sire...
Tonight!
This scene hammers home how the film relies on fairy tale logic more than nearly any other Disney film. All a matter of taste, of course. The problem is that it makes the film have little else of narrative value.
Sing, sweet nightingale, sing, sweet nightingale.
Even the humour of Lucifer being the audience surrogate here can't gloss over how grating that is on the ears. Intentional, of course, but it still grates.
Maybe I should interrupt the music lesson.
Thankfully, the filmmakers allow Cinderella a non-bland moment every now and then, so she's not a complete washout. Might as well say it now. While Tremaine is absolutely brilliant, the stepsisters rarely provide entertainment. Not direct like the mice. They're just there.
Oh, now what do they want?
So it never crossed Cinderella's mind that they'd load her with work to keep her too busy. There's a difference between being ever faithful and naive.
We leave the sewing to the women.
Couple the sufferable argot of the mice with them willingly committing to sexist roles, and you have what is easily the film's worst sequence. These Tom and Jerry antics do work, but across 3 sequences, nearly 15 minutes of a 74-minute film is devoted to them, padding galore. Lucifer saw them opening the peephole, yet he doesn't pounce in their direction as he turned towards the beads moments later. Better check your model sheets, animators. Lucifer is 5 claws here, when 4 is his norm otherwise. Just toss them in the hole, you idiots! I can expect hammer space logic, but not this. I can't be the only one who half-wished that needle actually hit that mouse. Raise your hands, folks. The birds lifted a bow to the collar earlier, yet it's gone straight away, and they tie it later. They're making the job harder for themselves. Jock flies down that string into a chest twice in succession, folks. So apparently 11 and 12 are interchangeable with Roman numerals. Could have fooled me. Good gosh, the castle again, and the starkness of the lighting on either side of the transition. Disney 50s design truly is unparalleled, folks. The facial gestures of Tremaine aren't quite as cunningly effective when they have to share screen space with the same from the stepsisters, folks. Could those dresses accentuate their posteriors anymore? I feel like I'm looking at modern models that overdid it on the plastic surgery. Her gown switches from a yellow green to a lighter green and back several times throughout. You don't want to see them all, folks. Trust me. To generations of kids, young girls especially, this is traumatic. But all I know is Cinderella's naivety at thinking they'll be okay with it. Like, seriously. After 43 minutes of realistic domestic drama, the fairy godmother appears to fix everything. This never occurred to me before, but have you ever thought about it? The magic is isolated to this scene and the midnight stroke is sets up, and that's it. That's some flimsy narrative structure, folks. But I will concede that I quite like the character. She has the same jolliness as the king, and is equally round and flowing in her animation. Opinions differ, folks, but for me, and many others at that, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo is a gem of Disney music. Rarely was the tradition of songs half made up of nonsense words at this level again. It helps that it's also one of the best visually too, with delightful bouncy animation and sparkling lightning that makes for wonderful cinematic magic. We never see the effect of that spell that goes after Lucifer. Colour me curious, folks. I'm marginally annoyed we don't. It's really neat how you can tell the horse and the dog were such even after they've been transformed. Which makes it kind of annoying that you can't at all with the mice now that they're horses. Good in a way, given they're the mice, but inconsistent. The Cinderella model is a frequent one in cinema, one of only a few basic screenplay categories. A dream comes true after years of repression. The problem is that Cinderella's barely a mover in the action around her at all. Luke Skywalker took action. Cinderella just reacts, even after this scene. Hold up. That girl was introduced as a princess. Aside from why she's at the ball, if she's a princess, surely she wouldn't be introduced with all the other non-royalty?
There must be at least one who'd make a suitable mother.
After a fashion, I'm actually quite fond of how forthright the film is about how the king doesn't even attempt to cloak the fact that he views his son's future wife as nothing but breeding stock. The same applies to Tremaine. It's clear she cares about her daughters purely as a means to further her societal stock. The reduction of every character to one motivation may be awful for the protagonists, but it's neat for some others.
I give up. Even I couldn't expect the boy to...
I love how even the king sees how unappealing the stepsisters are. Even for a ball, the castle's securities were lax for Cinderella to get all the way up here without going through some checking system.
pretty plot for fairy tales, sire. But in real life, oh no.
Declaring real life is no fairy tale whilst being unaware of being in a fairy tale, folks, as brought to you by the Grand Duke. The filtered light effect is still there even after the king closes the door. The Duke's monocle is intact. Pretty sure it got broken during his scuffle with the king earlier.
So this is love.
Oh boy, folks, the itch to fast forward is back and better than ever. Or would that be worse? The shadows they cast on the wall don't match their movements. Like, they really don't, folks. Stylistic impression is all well and good, but the darkly dead horses and riders feel like something more out of Alice in Wonderland than this film. Both of the other mice here have hats, yet before they transformed, only one of them did. Also, their positions swap around a hectic amount between shots. The film provides no explanation for why the glass slippers don't return to normal. In the original fairy tale, they were an ordinary gift, not transformed by magic. It'd be pretty neat if, you know, that was in the film. Also, the slipper wasn't there when she changed back at first, or that's a coloring goof, maybe intentional to hide the reveal, but still. If you look closely, you can see that Cinderella has toes under her tights, isolated, a lovely detail, but just contradicts her digitless feet from earlier. What's neat is how they delay the reveal long enough that we go from being restless to finding it funny again. It's the Simpsons rake principle, folks. Chandeliers are heavy, of course, but even so, the king's bed isn't nearly as expensive as you'd think if it would smash through it like that.
This slipper may fit any number of girls.
Gee, isn't it a coincidence that they don't happen upon any other girls that would fit the slipper before visiting the Tremaine Chateau? That clock must be faulty. Its time changed radically between shots. The mice's stance is that of those that didn't stop just moving, yet they weren't there just 6 seconds prior when Tremaine was looking. The amount of spite that can be produced just by narrowing one's eyes, you wouldn't be surprised to hear that some of the original animation drawings for this shot were the centerpiece of a gallery show many decades later.
So this is the miracle.
You never really think about whether songs actually happen in a way the characters are aware, given a musical is unrealistic, so I always dig occasions where proof does crop up that they do happen.
Oh no!
I can't really say that this is appalling lip syncing. That would imply the lips move to begin with.
Drizella? Anastasia?
Even half asleep, he recoils. Brilliant. The film's climax, if you can call it that, basically boils down to more mice antics. Plot-relevant antics this time, but that can't save it. The mice squeezed under a closed door at the tower's entrance, so how did Lucifer get in to catch and trap Gus? The Duke woke up, so it's a stretch to say the second stepsister had time to try the slipper, equal to the time taken for the mice to ascend the whole tower. Those plates leave not a shard after being dropped. Not a shard, folks.
Quick, get Bruno! Get Bruno!
Cinderella scolded Bruno earlier about mean to Lucifer, so it's quite neat to hear her retract that and rely on the cat-dog animosity. The Duke took out his monocle here, yet he has it back in when he helps Cinderella down the stairs. Cinderella's apron has a rip here. If you ask me, the glass slipper has magic powers, seeing as the rip is gone moments later. The slipper Cinderella retained is for her right foot, yet she holds out her right foot for the other one, which would be for her left foot.
But you see, I have the other slipper.
I love how she waits until the right moment to whip it out. Her vocal tone is perfect, finally giving her some activity as she one-ups Tremaine. So everyone else doesn't think Cinderella's mad for bringing all her animal friends with her into her new royal life? Cinderella's gown has puff sleeves here, yet they weren't so earlier. And so the film ends just as it begun, on a near identical note to Snow White. You needn't think too hard to find out which I prefer. Let's remind ourselves what the message is, folks. Girls, wait, dress nice, and impress the pretty boy. Boys, forget you, no one gives a monkeys about boys. A message that's actively the focus, unlike in Snow White. To be clear, folks, I don't actively dislike the film. I just feel that the characters that are dull, gender issues, thin story, and awful mice make it undeserving of being classic. It may be a family film, but most Disney films made to that principle are good flicks, often great. That applies here, if only just. Minus 52. Definitely not the classic many would have you believe, but it's still enjoyable.